What is your most shameful, embarrassing, perverse, creepy thing you've ever done? Story 1. When I was still living at home as a teenager, I used my mom's laptop to jerk off to porn one night. The next morning, we were sitting in the living room and she opened up her computer. I noticed that I had missed some of my product during the after-orgasm cleanup. Before I knew what was going on, my mom licked her thumb and started cleaning it off, going back several times to re-wet her finger after she had already been rubbing the spot. I still don't know what the solution to that situation would have been, but it still haunts me. Story 2. The other day, I had the misfortune of visiting a friend and accidentally stumbling into a pair of boxers. Not being particularly fond of them, I decided to do the responsible thing and dispose of them by stuffing them behind the toilet. Little did I know that a few weeks later I'd be returning to this same spot and getting caught red-handed by my friend's mom. She asked me if I had left a pair of underwear the last time I'd slept over, and I was about to answer in the negative when she pointed out that the tag had my last name sewn into it. Needless to say, I was busted. Story 3. When I was 18 years old in 1999, I longed for a threesome, but I was too scared to ask my girlfriend. So I signed up for a free sex/dating website, jumped on my bike, and headed to a seedy motel near the motorway off-ramp. I got my wish granted with a somewhat attractive MILF and 2 other dudes. No guy-on-guy action. We pounded that poor woman for almost 45 minutes. After I washed my manhood in the sink, the woman and the man asked if the other guy, who was about my age, and I wanted a second round. I politely declined and sped back to the city, went straight to the internet cafe, and played EverQuest for 18 hours. Story 4. That night I encountered a wild-looking girl who promised to give me an unforgettable time. We went back to her apartment and had an intense time in bed. She was so wild that I could sense something unusual about her behavior. Suddenly, when she reached her huge climax, she started to gargle and twitch like mad for a few minutes before falling instantly asleep. I naively thought I had been an incredible lover, but I was wrong. When she woke up in the morning, she could barely remember anything from the night. I was about to feel proud of myself until she told me that she had most likely had an epileptic seizure due to her missing her medication for weeks. Suddenly, I felt as if I were miles away from being the legendary Ron Jeremy. Story 5. I was at JFK Airport in New York City, standing in line at one of the restaurants. I noticed that the girl ahead of me had a strikingly peculiar shape. Intrigued, I pulled out my Trio 650 to take a picture. Suddenly, I heard whispering behind me. The 2 girls had noticed my actions and were openly scalding me. They proceeded to walk over to their friend, the Bubblebutt girl, and shame me further. I felt completely embarrassed and hung my head in shame as they left the restaurant, giving me disapproving stares. What I had done was not with any ill intentions, I just thought the sight was amusing. Unfortunately, I was met with a lot of judgment. Story 6. I was so wild with adrenaline that night that I decided to take a risk and go bike streaking around the suburbs. I stripped down naked and started tearing around the street with my bicycle. Cars passed by every few minutes, but I was determined to get a rush of adrenaline. I was loving it. I loved the feeling of being naked in public. I biked quickly through a white picket fence neighborhood, going at top speed and even without shoes on. I felt so exhilarated that I couldn't help but let out a few shouts of joy. When I was done, I had to wipe off all the sweat and dirt from my bike. It was an amazing experience and one that I will never forget. Story 7. I was pampering myself one day, making sure to keep it quick since I had to drop off some VCDs of The Matrix to a friend. After an intense hour of edging, I had an explosive orgasm that felt like it bent space-time. I searched for the evidence of my climax afterwards, but couldn't find it. Once I got to my friend's house and knocked on the door, I noticed the glue between the VCDs was the same color as my ejaculate. Rather than admitting my mistake, I told him that it was some type of glue, then fled the scene. Story 8. A couple of months ago, I was pleasantly surprised to discover that a gorgeous young woman lives in the flat across from mine. Even better, she usually keeps her windows open so I'm able to get a perfect view of her bedroom when it is lit up at night. I've been lucky enough to witness her unclothed multiple times, as well as her moisturizing her body with lotion after a shower, and just last week, I was blessed with the sight of her and her partner enjoying some intimate moments. It was definitely one of the most amazing experiences of my life. The layout of the building means that I'm pretty certain no one else gets to experience the same wonders that I do, and I think she believes my apartment to be vacant since I rarely turn on the lights in my bedroom. Story 9. I was so excited when my girlfriend sent me a box of her sex toys as a birthday present. She's an expert, having tested and reviewed them for years, and has an amazing collection. I could hardly wait to try out the huge pink gyrating vibrating bunny dildo. but I had to head to work and couldn't wait any longer. I put my jacket over my lap, took off my pants, and started pledging myself while driving. I felt so naughty and was rewarded with 2 amazing orgasms before I pulled into the parking lot at work. Story 10. My friend from college was a total bombshell. She was petite, slender, and had an enviable figure. We were studying together in the library, and she offered her laptop for note-taking. In that moment, a brilliant thought came to me. I remembered that if you use Google Chrome, you can access the passwords for all websites that have been saved. I took advantage of this and made a mental note of the same password she used for everything. I then asked to borrow her Android phone. She had Dropbox installed, so I turned on instant photo upload and gave the phone back to her. Story 11. As a teen, I unknowingly put a girl's pillow to an unusual use. I had been using it as a napkin for 2 months until it became too crumbly to be of any more use. So I chucked it into the corner and forgot about it. It was a beautiful golden yellow color and had a crunchy texture. But when she came to visit and saw the pillow, she immediately recognized it and took it away with her. She later told me that the pillow had a comforting aroma and reminded her of me, so much so that she had slept on it for months. Story 12. I attended an Iron Maiden concert while high on a variety of substances. In a moment of intoxication-induced recklessness, I grabbed a woman's booty right in front of her boyfriend, who was a much smaller and skinnier guy than me. I felt ashamed of my actions and wished I could apologize, but I'm the type of person who prefers to avoid physical conflicts. This memory has been a source of guilt for me for many years. Story 13. When I was 12 or 13, I couldn't help but take advantage of the situation when I got my hair cut. The woman was so hot, and she was flaunting her assets. I acted fast as I didn't have long since my haircut was just a buzz and snip. I propped a smock on the armrest so that I could hide my movements. I pocket-fanned quickly while hoping she hadn't noticed. At that age, I doubt there was much of a mess to worry about. Besides, the goofy shorts I wore in the 80s would have camouflaged any stains. I can still remember her looking like this. Story 14. At the party, my brother had been letting me have it all night. After I left the gathering, I had to use the toilet in his bedroom. To my dismay, there was no toilet paper, so I had to think fast. I took a pair of white tube socks out of his drawer, turned one inside out, and used it to do my business. Once I was done, I folded them back up the way they were and put them back in their place. Someday when we're older, I'll tell him the story and we'll have a good laugh about it. Story 15. After graduating high school, I set off on an adventurous journey across the United States, taking Greyhound buses from Ohio to California. On the second or third night of my trip, I had the bright idea to try out something I had recently read in an article about plane sex. I was so excitable that at 3 a.m. while on the bus, I decided that the elderly woman seated next to me was the perfect candidate. I slowly draped a blanket over us and then started to rub against her in the dark. But before I could really get into it, she woke up and recoiled away, embarrassed and scared. She wouldn't look at me for the remainder of the trip, and we never spoke of the incident again.